So welcome everyone to the Emotional First Aid Practices for Inner Wellbeing talk, which is presented by me, Tiana Roser. So who am I? For those of you that don't know me, first of all, I want to say that I'm somebody who has not used PowerPoint since I was in college, so I apologize if this presentation is a little clunky. And also I'm new to Zoom, and so I'm figuring this out as I go along. I'm also someone who's very emotional, and so ever since I was a child, I've been I deeply feel things. And so this talk on emotional well-being is something that I really had to work on with myself. And it's something that now in the work that I do is a key part of the things that I offer and the way that I like to help people. And so even if you don't necessarily relate as like a deeply emotional person, everyone has emotions. And so it's something that we all need to learn how to work with, how to utilize. And yet it's not something that anyone teaches us in school. And most likely it's not something that you were taught in your family. And so because of that, most of us don't have the tools to have a healthy foundation for working with our emotions. And so, so when I was young, being very emotional, I used to just really express myself emotionally. And, you know, when you're young, that's okay. And maybe people laugh a little bit, but it's acceptable when you're a kid. But I can remember also when I was maybe like 5, I used to have temper tantrums, like major temper tantrums. People that know me now wouldn't believe how angry I could get when I was a little girl. I would throw these big fits where I would go in the dining room and I would grab the chairs and I would fling them around and nobody could calm me down. And so one day, my mom had put me down to take a nap, and she had told me she was going to be there when I woke up. And of course, you know, my mom used to work a lot. And so when I woke up, she wasn't there. And it was my aunt and my uncle that were there. And I was so mad. I had a temper tantrum, you know, who are these people here? Where's my mom? She said she was going to be here. Nobody could calm me down. And then my uncle sat me down and told me this story about these trolls that took away this little girl who, you know, was too emotional. And that worked. That quieted me down. But that also, you know, at that age, it really scared me. And I used to stay up at night kind of, you know, looking in the windows, waiting for the trolls to come and take me away. And I can remember, like, if I look back now, that was kind of the shift of when I stopped really freely expressing my emotions and I started to like really move into my mind, which was safe and stable and kind of really pushing my emotions deep down inside of me because they were unsafe and unstable. And probably nobody told you the troll story. Maybe you don't have something as dramatic as that for the shift, but I'm guessing that sometime in your childhood, that kind of shift also happened for you, where you began to kind of subdue your emotions or push them down as a way to hide them or to try to manage or control them. But the thing is that our emotions are such a valuable part of us. And so we'll talk more about that in just a second. But anyway, so as an adult, after having been in my logical mind for all of these years and making my choices logically, but really kind of being divorced from my emotional self, which is really the compass to show you what will bring you fulfillment. So I got my degree in business and I started working in that field, and it just didn't bring me any fulfillment. And that's kind of when I started to make this shift of figuring out, you know, who am I? This is, you know, this who am I is kind of that big existential question, who am I? And our emotions are part of what help us to find that answer. And so I did go on this journey of getting to know my emotional self, and the things that I learned and the tools I use are things that I want to share with you. So that now I do work as a hypnotherapist, working with the subconscious mind, which is our emotions and our beliefs. And I'm an energy worker. I'm a Reiki master, and emotions are energy too. And so we'll talk about those things as tools for helping us to have a way to create emotional well-being. Okay, so we're living in these unprecedented times right now of uncertainty. And, you know, I don't know when people will be watching this video, maybe, well after this whole coronavirus thing is done. But right now, it's been a huge catalyst for so many people. Everyone's way of life has dramatically shifted, and we've all really been triggered in different ways. Whatever those fears were, your own physical safety, your financial well-being, feeling like you have no control and feeling frustrated, feeling angry. This huge global event is catalyst that is bringing up a lot of our emotions. But we can also look at it as an opportunity to finally face our emotions and find a healthy way to move forward. Because even after this finishes, we're going to continue to have emotional things come up, maybe nothing global, but there's going to be still accidents, illnesses, job changes, relationship changes. All of these things bring up our emotions. And why not use this time when everything is kind of quieted more in the outer world to really go inwardly and finally develop those tools to help you moving forward. And so here's a quote from Wayne Dyer. You cannot always control what goes on outside, but you can always control what goes on inside. And so that, I think that says it all in these times. I don't think there's anything more I have to say for that. So let's talk about how you can control what goes on inside. Okay, so we're going to start out with energy foundations. And I put in there daily energy hygiene. And I started to, I don't know, I thought I made up this term. I guess other people are using it too, but I started to kind of really look at it from that perspective. Just the last year, it became clear to me, even though I've been working as an energy healer for many years now, I think most of those years, I was the type of person where unless something kind of really affected my energy, I wasn't doing a kind of daily practice of setting my energy and clearing my energy. Only when something would come up and affect me, then I might go and do some of these practices that I'm going to share with you. But it started to become very clear to me that no, I need to have a daily energy practice, and that's the foundation for my stability, for my well-being. And I like using the word hygiene because I was thinking about brushing your teeth, and I've been using this example a lot where, I don't brush my teeth only when my teeth hurt. I brush my teeth every single day, even when I don't feel like it. I make sure to brush my teeth. It's preventative care, and it keeps my teeth in a good condition. And that's what I need to be doing with these energy practices, having good energetic hygiene. If you're doing it regularly, you're setting your energy, you're stabilizing your energy so that it doesn't get so affected by outside energies. And our emotions are energy. And so I was thinking also, it's kind of like the front door to your house. If you're not paying attention and you don't know if it's open or closed or unlocked or locked, then anything can come in the front door. And you don't know, what all you're letting into your house. And that's kind of what we're doing with our energy. If we're not paying attention and setting it and clearing it regularly, then other people's emotional junk is coming in, and it's mixing, and we don't know what's what's our emotions and what's other people's emotions. And so this is kind of the foundation that you can build your emotional mastery, if we want to call it that, or your emotional stability or your emotional well-being. So energy hygiene. There's a lot we could put in here, but just cognizant of time, I'm just kind of briefly touch on these things. And if you want to go deeper in them, you can Google grounding and aura setting and energy clearing. Also, I'm going to be offering an online class. All the things that I'm kind of touching on today will be going into more deeply in the online class, and have tools in that online course for you to go more deeply in these things. But we're just going to touch on them right now. So grounding, I think the easiest way to think of grounding is kind of to think of a tree. And a tree has roots that ground it, that stabilize it into the earth. And so when our energy is grounded, we're like that tree with that root system. And when a storm comes, the tree doesn't knock over because the root system is stabilizing and it's grounding it. And so just the simplest explanation of grounding that I would give is just to be present, to keep your awareness in your body, because your body is the grounder. Your body is the roots that reach down into the earth. Your body can only be in the here and now, in the present moment. When we keep our awareness in the present moment, we're grounded. Our mind, our emotions, they can be yesterday, they can be an imaginary tomorrow, and that's what starts to make us not feel good. All of these imaginary outcomes, or projecting what happened before in the past into the future. But in this moment right now, you're sitting here safe and you're okay. So grounding is bringing your awareness back into your body. And there's lots of different practices that you can do. So many more than I can mention right here. But one simple one you can do is just, like I said, imagine yourself energetically like a tree. Imagine from your feet that you have energy roots that go down into the earth. And energy follows your intention. Don't worry if you can't see that energy, if you can't feel that energy. Just through intending it or imagining it, your energy will start to follow that. And if you do that daily, regularly, then you're really deeply rooting and setting that energetic support. Okay, so let's move on to aura setting. So your aura is like this energy bubble around you, kind of like an egg-shaped energy bubble. Kind of like, I think of like a turtle carries its home on its back. This is kind of what you're doing with your aura. You're carrying it with you, this energy bubble. Everywhere you go, your energy home comes with you. Again, you don't need to sense it. You don't need to see it. You don't need to feel it right now. You can just use your intention to work with it. And so, regardless of what is happening in this environment or globally outward, if you work with your aura, that's the energy that you can control. You can have your safe home, your energetic space with you wherever you go as your aura. And so with your aura, most people say like about 2.5 feet to 3 feet around you is kind of a healthy place with your aura. So every day after you do your grounding, you can just imagine setting your aura to 2.5 to 3 feet around you. And it can be clear, it could be iridescent. You could make it a color if you want. I'm not very inner visual, so I'm very kinesthetic. So I sort of kind of imagine pulling it in, because for me, I'm very open. I just leave my energy. I leave that front door open, and then so I have to kind of learn to kind of pull it into kind of a healthy place around me. But maybe you're somebody who's kind of feels more closed off, and you want to feel more relaxed and open to create kind of a more relaxed, safe space. You might push it out some, but again, 2.5 to 3 feet around. Okay, and then, so now you're stable and rooted and grounded, and now you've created your maintaining your own energetic home, your space. Um, uh, then, as things affect you, or if you're noticing, whether you heard some news or whether it's somebody else's emotion or your own emotion, um, you can do some energy clearing. And energy clearing could be something like Reiki, like I do, but not everybody's attuned to Reiki. Another tool that you can use is called the violet flame. And again, it's just with your intention. You might just imagine this very vibrant violet energy. When you call the violet flame, you could imagine it as a column of energy coming down through your aura. Um, or you could just imagine it kind of flowing through your auric space. Uh, I found, like, in the beginning, I was just imagining it, and I felt like, oh, I'm making this up. Even though I'm an energy worker and I work with energy all the time. But what was interesting is that once I started to work with it daily, I did start to feel it more and more. I became more sensitive. So for me now, when I call on and imagine the violet flame, it feels kind of electrical and fiery, and I can really feel it. And it only takes like 30 seconds or a minute, and that's plenty to clear that space. There's a lot more to talk about energy hygiene, but if you just kind of did those few tools every day, you're really going to become sort of able to set and maintain your own energetic space, like that turtle that you can carry with you, instead of feeling like you're being tugged and pulled along, anybody else's energetic stuff or emotional stuff that's happening. Especially do this before you go on social media or do this before you check the news. It'll really help you to be centered in your own self. Okay, just keeping an eye on the time. Okay, what I really, really want to talk about today is connecting with your inner child. And on here, as you can see, I have the inner child is, in my opinion, the key to your emotional healing. And your inner child is basically just your emotional self, imagining your emotional self as a child. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 85, you still have an inner child and an emotional self. But the thing is that nobody really, or very few people, kind of learn this term as you grow up. And so once your physical body matures into an adult, we don't see ourselves as childlike anymore. And we can be very harsh on ourselves the way that we would never be with a child. And so, we tend to judge our emotions as they come up the way that we never would if a child had that emotion in front of us. And we can, if we get angry, we can be ashamed and tell ourselves like, oh, you shouldn't be angry, or you shouldn't be frustrated. Or if we're sad and want to cry, we might be like, get over it, grow up and put your big girl panties on, or whatever, these things that we say. But we would never say that, or hopefully you would never say that to a child in front of you. And so it just to even recognize your emotional self as your inner child, and to start to perceive it that way, would be really a big shift. You'll naturally know kind of the right way to respond when your emotions come up. And so as I was saying before, when I was young, and then I was very emotional, and then I kind of shut that part off and I just moved into my logical mind, I got really disconnected from my own inner child. And I think this is common with a lot of people. There was sort of a disdain for that part of myself. It seemed weak. I didn't want to be vulnerable. And so, even disgusted by that part, if those emotions would come up where I felt vulnerable, oh, I didn't want to feel that. So I'd move into my mind, and it feels stronger and very stable. But then we're missing all of the beautiful parts of our emotional self. So so I put this on here, inspired by Laura, who created this online holistic healing summit. I watched her presentation yesterday, where she talked about the foundations of self-care. And if you weren't there, I know the video is going to be available later, and I do recommend watching it. It even helped me because I was sort of stressing yesterday about, kind of putting this presentation together. Like I said, I hadn't used PowerPoint in ages. And so I was like sort of stressing myself out, and I wanted to have the online course done by today, and then stressing myself out. And then I watched her presentation, and I just kind of pull back, and it was like, it's okay, just do your best, and I can have the online course done a few days later. It's okay. So anyway, so in Laura's presentation, she had a really cute picture of her inner child, and playful and fun. I wanted to put this picture very intentionally of my inner child. When you look at her, look at this. I mean, of course, all the pictures of me as a child don't look like this. There's a lot of them where I am free and joyful, but this one was kind of speaking to how it often feels when we connect to our inner child. You look at her eyes, she looks kind of scared. She looks very vulnerable. She looks unsure. And I found it very ironic because she has this have a nice day t-shirt on, but she doesn't look like she's necessarily having a nice day. And so and then I wrote missing. Have you seen this child? Because that's what happened, is like that I had lost connection with my own inner child, and many of us do. And so unintentionally, because we don't realize that we have an emotional child, we've abandoned this child. I abandoned this child, focusing on, my goals, focusing on other people and their needs, and connecting with them. Meanwhile, my child inwardly is crying out for my attention, and that's so common. And so initially, when we first connect to our inner child, they might not trust us, or they might be angry with us, or they might be scared, like it seems too good to be true. And so let that be okay if that happens. That the process, just like with anyone else, it takes time to develop a trust relationship. And only from continuing to show up for our inner child, to connect with our inner child, do they start to relax and feel like we're really going to be there for them. And so my next screen, I'm showing my video here, this over here. I put this picture of a dog on purpose, I guess, for a couple reasons. One thing was that when I started to connect with my inner child, and I was going through this big kind of growth and healing process, and going within myself. And hold on one second. And I've always had very powerful dreams. And I was having these dreams, and now it seems very obvious, but at the time, I didn't quite understand what the dream was telling me. I would have this dream where I would find a dog, and it would be in a cage. And I'd be so surprised to find this dog in this cage, and I'd be so concerned, like, how long has it been there? Oh my gosh, was I supposed to be taking care of it? How did I forget it was there? How did I not know? And then I would wake up. And then maybe a month later, I would have a dream. Okay, the dog's there. And I find that the door to the cage is unlocked. But there's this kind of ominous feeling like the person that put it in the cage is going to come any moment. And I don't know, it feels scary. Like, am I going to be able to get this dog out before this person comes and does something? And then later I had the dream again, this time, okay, there's nobody coming, like the door's open, I can get the dog. But then there was the worry about, like, I don't know, can I take care of this dog? Where am I going to put this dog? Do I have a place in my home for this dog? And now I can look back, and I understand that the dog was my inner child. For me, dogs have always been unconditional love. That's the way I see a dog is like so pure and unconditional love. And so that's why my subconscious was using a dog to symbolize that. But also I like this picture of the dog kind of symbolizing our inner child, because in a lot of ways we show up for our dog so much better than we show up for our inner child. So at the top, it says, accept them as they are. If your dog gets so excited when you come home and it's like knocking itself over, we don't shame the dog and feel embarrassed for it because it's over enthusiastic, and when your dog makes a mess and doesn't behave, we don't stop loving it. We might feel frustrated, but we still love the dog. We love the essence of the dog, not because only when they behave well, but the essence of them. It's pure, and we love that. And that's how we want to see our inner child. See the pure, unique essence that's your inner child. There's no one else like this on the planet. Of all the 7 or 8 billion people, you're the only one like you. And really seeing that pure essence and not judging, just loving and accepting them as they are. And then your inner child will be so happy just for you to show up and to be seen and to be heard and to be understood and validated by your presence. And so that's the second one, is hold space for your inner child. So first, it's just connecting inwardly, whether it's a guided meditation or whether you just imagine connecting to your inner child, or whether it's a big emotion came up and you're feeling it and you recognize that that's your inner child, and then kind of going inward and sitting with that for a second. The next thing you do is just hold space. And what does that mean? It means just show up and be present without judgment. That's really what our inner child just wants from us. It's just our presence. We're not trying to fix it. We're not trying to figure it out. We're not trying to change how they feel and put a happy face on it. Just by being there and allowing them to feel what they're feeling, and recognizing it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be jealous. All of these, it's okay to feel guilty. All of these emotions are part of being human. Every human has felt those things. And just by holding that space and allowing them to experience that, it starts to calm it down. It helps process that feeling. Somebody, I don't remember who, but somebody said, you got to feel it to heal it. And so that's what we're really doing when we're holding space, is just being there, just feeling it, creating a safe container that it's okay, whatever your emotions are, just noticing them, just allowing them. That's holding space. And then finally, you just have to keep showing up. It's like your dog. You don't just feed your dog one day and then forget your dog exists, and go about your business, and, weeks go by. And so just because you do an inner child process one day, you're not done. It's not a one and done. It's the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be. You might do like a guided meditation or a hypnosis practice or a journaling practice, kind of a long one initially, just to connect with your inner child, just to see what they need. And then it might be just an inner conversation with your inner child. Right now I'm not commuting so much, but like a lot of times before, it could be just on my drive to work. I'm just having an inner conversation with her, or my drive from work. Hey, how are you? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm here for you, and I'm thinking of you. Just kind of checking in, and the way that you check in with your loved ones, right? You text them, hey, how are you? What's up? We do that just because we think of the ones that we love regularly, and we check in with them. And same with your inner child. If you love and honor and value this essential part of you, then you're going to be naturally thinking of them and checking in with them. And so it doesn't have to be a complicated practice, just as simple as these 3 things. Okay. And so, so all of this is part of learning to value our emotions. Our emotions are a compass for our life. If we just use logic to be the compass, then we're going to make decisions that seem like good decisions, but might not be true for us, might not be authentic for us. And that's where I was, up until kind of I got into the business field and recognized like, oh, this doesn't feel good to me. It made sense. There's always going to be business in the world. I want to achieve. But when I got in there, it wasn't the right fit for me. It didn't feel good. And so I needed to start paying attention to how I feel, to begin creating a path that would bring me the fulfillment that I want. And so I took this big risk, and I left the field that I had got my degree in, that I had a good paying job, and I kind of quit all of that and left without really knowing what the way forward was. But I knew that I wanted to find what was going to bring me joy, that it wasn't enough just to make money and have a good title and have nice things. I'm very feeling. I need to feel fulfilled, and our emotions guide us. They're a guidance system that help us to fine tune our life and our choices so that we can feel very fulfilled and be comfortable in our own skin. So as long as we're not allowing ourselves to feel our emotions to be the full expression of who we are, if we're judging that, if we're repressing that, then those are going to be areas of ourself that are stuck or stifled, that we can't be comfortable in. And so then we can't be comfortable in our own skin. We can't hold space for ourselves. And then we can't hold space for others and be comfortable. If I'm not comfortable with my sadness, then I'm not going to be comfortable with other people's sadness. And it affects the way that I can relate to people and how close or intimate those connections can be. If I can't be my own self with myself, then I can't be my own self with others. And so emotions have an incredible gift to offer us. And so I have a few of the emotions, and of course there's a broad spectrum, but this is part of what I put in my course. I just made I put a few of the emotions and some of the gifts, and there's more than even just what I put for each emotion. Looking at, what are they trying to show us? What is it trying to tell me? Rather than pushing it down, repressing it, shaming myself, or judging myself for having this emotion, I could use it as a tool. What am I trying to learn from it? What is it trying to tell me? And so, let me move this again. So with anger, anger is showing us what we're passionate about. Anger is a very alive energy. If I'm like, that's not right, the government shouldn't be doing this or whatever, I could get very angry. It can push me into action versus just kind of apathy, like whatever, that doesn't get me moving in any direction. So anger can show us what we're passionate about. And it also can show us either where our boundaries are or where we need to set boundaries. Anger is a boundary, we're like, no, that's not okay. But a lot of times, if we wait till something pushes us to the point of anger, the way that energy expresses out to others doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to us or them. And so we really want to make friends with our anger. And when we feel any kind of big emotion like anger, we want to be able to kind of have a container for it. We want to be able to kind of sit with ourselves, feel that feeling. Anger is an active emotion. So maybe you go punch a pillow or you scream in a pillow or punch a punching bag. Or if you don't know what to do with an emotion, you can always write it out. and you can write, a nasty letter to whoever you're angry about, and you don't ever have to send it to them. You can shred it, rip it up, or burn it, but it that way it moves. It doesn't stay stuck in your energetic system within you. The more that we're holding these emotions and they get stuck, everything gets very murky in here. We have all of this stuff we're carrying, other people's emotions, our emotions. Like, no wonder we don't know who we are and what we want. And so how can we be clear and aware, to be able to make choices that are aligned and authentic to us if we have all of this murky stuff going on? Okay, so I'm going to move just really quickly through the emotions, and of course, each one could have a lot more time spent on it. So anxiety. So anxiety, probably a lot of people are feeling anxiety right now with this big global uncertainty of this quarantine and this virus, and we don't know what's going to happen. Anxiety is asking you to be present in this moment. Showing you that you might be stuck in the past or living in, an imagined future that may or may not happen. So most, our anxiety is remembering another time of uncertainty and how it all went wrong, and imagining that's going to happen again, or just, imagining in the future, all of these worst case scenarios and starting to feel unease. But again, if you go into your body right now in this moment, you're perfectly okay. You're safe. In this moment, in your body, you are safe. And so anxiety, when you notice yourself feeling anxious, again, you just can hold space for that feeling. Always with your emotions, first you can just hold space and allow them, feel them, let them be there without judgment. And then after it starts to move and calm and starts to clear, then you can get the gift and the what it's showing you. Okay, bitterness, resentment. Bitterness is showing us somewhere where we have, hurts. We're hurt, and where we're showing a judgment within ourselves. They shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. It's not supposed to be like this, something like this. And we're carrying it as if somehow it's important to carry it. Otherwise, we might forget and it'll happen again. But really all it's doing is it's like keeping a thorn in our heart, and it's continually hurting us over and over again. And it's, if we could release that, and then we can open that space so that love and joy and other good things can come in. And then fear is a big one right now. Again, all of this uncertainty creates a lot of fear. We're realizing that we don't actually have control over external events, and that creates a lot of fear. So fear is just teaching us to face the uncomfortable, the things we can't control, the things we can't predict. And just in facing it and showing up and facing it and being willing, rather than running away, rather than sticking our head in the sand and pretending it's not there, just in facing it, we get stronger. And we realize, like, oh, okay, I can handle more than I thought, or, I've got through that. I can get through this. And so just in facing fear, we grow stronger, we become more confident. I like that book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. The title is enough. It's not about the people that are most courageous. It's not because they don't have fear. Everyone has fear. It's that they don't let their fear control them or stop them. Okay, so grief and sadness is probably another emotion, or emotions that are, oops, I did that wrong, sorry. There are emotions that are coming up a lot right now, grief and sadness. Grief and sadness are part of our human experience. Everyone's going to experience grief and sadness in their lifetime. And we can't avoid that. And we can't just make it go away. But if we go through it, if we allow it, if we sit with it, it will move. through time, through holding space with it. But grief and sadness just open our heart. They blast our heart open, and we start to really feel deeply in our heart. So it helps us to become more sensitive, and it helps us to become more empathetic when other people, everyone's going to go through grief and sadness at some point in their life. It's part of what makes us human. And so it's just something that opens our heart. Now, guilt and shame. Guilt and shame show us about judgment, either where we're judging ourselves or where we're allowing other people's expectations, other people's beliefs to affect us, to control us. Guilt and shame are teaching us, to have that acceptance of ourselves, just to let ourselves be where we're at, to know nobody's perfect. We're all figuring it out as we go along. I say this a lot to my clients. This is a trial and error, universe. There's no manual. And so we're just trying something, and, it tells us as we try something, it tells us whether or not that works for me or not. And if I look at that, I can learn from that and I can make the next choice. So if you made something and you don't feel good about it, just learn from it, and it's okay. You can just always love yourself. It's the same way, remember, you loved your dog even when they made a mess, and they remain lovable, and so do you. And so guilt and shame just teach us how to be where we're at and love and accept ourselves. And then the last one I have on here is jealousy. I have just some of these emotions that we tend to judge ourselves a lot, and we forget that, these are all human emotions. So jealousy also teaches us to love ourselves. Jealousy or envy, a lot of times, we're focusing either on what others have, what we feel we don't have, we're comparing. It teaches us to bring the focus back to ourselves and to show up for ourselves, to give ourselves whatever we feel we don't have, whatever we're wanting or needing. We always have the capacity to provide that for ourselves. And that's part of this inner child connection. So it reminds you that first and foremost, you're the source of your own fulfillment. Okay, so that's all I have for the gifts of the emotions. And of course, there's more. Okay, so finally, we just touched on these things. I am offering this course, like I said, I don't quite have it ready yet. I am going to have it ready by April 10th on Friday. And you can find it on my website, awakeningtransformation.com. It's going to have all of the things that we covered much more in depth. So energetic foundations, making friends with your emotions, inner child healing, empowering yourself. We didn't talk about boundaries. That's a very important one for working with your emotions. There's a lot more there. So I have 4 hypnosis audios that guide you through these processes that you can listen to daily or as needed. I have some quick guides, like the ones that you just saw about the emotions. I have that all in kind of like one little photo that you can have on your phone and kind of look at it each day. And I have that for the inner child, a process that you go through, and some other things like that. So anyway, my online course, it's going to be $144, but for people who watch this, you'll have 50% off, which would be $77. I think that's 50%. That's slightly, anyway, more or less 50%. Okay, and then the discount code is going to be Holistic Healing. You can take a photo of this if you want, or you might just be able to remember the words Holistic Healing. So that'll be available to you. I also do hypnosis for inner child all the time. I do that kind of process, and so some of these other things we could work with in a different way in a hypnosis session. And then, so finally, just, if you want to stay connected, I'm offering different kind of live stream classes through Zoom now as I'm learning how to use this. And you can find those offerings on my website, awakeningtransformation.com. Also, I have a Facebook business page. If you go to Facebook and you just type in Awakening Transformation, you'll find it, and I'll be posting things on there as well. Thank you for so much for joining this talk, and I hope that there are some helpful tools in there for you. And I will see if I can get us off of record.